Yo, what's good guys, I'm Jedi. Today, we're making the top 10 facts about the city of Boston that you probably did not know. So, let's go. So Boston is actually named after a town in England because most of the city's first settlers actually came from England. So then they just kind of named it Boston, and then the people there kind of just kept it. So that's kind of why they have Boston, and that's kind of why Boston and New England is really you see a lot of similarities between them and England. It's because a lot of the city's first settlers actually came from England, and then, it sounds like a pretty cool name, right? Boston. Sounds like nice and strong, so they just kept the name. So the Revere Beach, which is the beach which is a beach in Boston. It's actually the country's first beach, and it was there in 1896, and so that's the very first beach in the country. So if you're ever wondering where, if someone asks you a trivia question, where is the first beach in the country? It's in Boston, Revere Beach, 1896. In 1897, Boston also built the very first subway, and the Tremont subway is actually the third subway in the world to ever use electric traction. So Boston really started off the whole subway thing. So they had the first subway. A lot of people think that it's New York, but it's actually Boston, and they were the third in the world to use electric traction. The oldest public park in the country is also in Boston, as we now see that Boston's able to do a lot of these great things. But the Boston Common is actually a public park that's still there from 1634, and you could still go there, and it's a great park. A lot of people go there for fun, and that is the oldest park in the country. So Boston's famous for all these first things. It's a lot of pioneer stuff, and a lot of the stuff that you would expect other states to have or other cities to have. Boston is usually the first in that. The very first chocolate factory in USA was also in Boston, and so then Boston's also really famous for that factory too. And a lot of people think there's actually misconceptions. A lot of people think that the first factory was actually built in Milwaukee, but it was actually built in Boston, and the one in Milwaukee was actually built a couple years or sometime after Boston, and then I think, if I'm not wrong, they closed, but don't quote me on that. But Boston was also the first in the chocolate factory. Starting chocolate factory. A lot of you guys know about Dunkin Donuts, and Dunkin Donuts is a really popular donut, like a donut branch franchise, and Dunkin Donuts was actually created first in Boston, and that's where the really popular flavor from Dunkin Donuts comes from. The name Boston Cream. It's actually because of Dunkin Donuts first being in Boston. The deepest tunnel in America is actually in Boston, the Ted Williams Tunnel. It's actually 90 feet underground, so if you ever wanted to see what it's like to be 90 feet underground in a tunnel, going to Boston, going to the Ted Williams underground tunnel is one of the best things you could do. One of the really strange things about Boston is in 1984 there was a murder where there was a guy who killed a 20-year-old lady, and this was associated with bars. So then what they did was they completely banned happy hours at all bars. So in Boston, you're never going to find happy hour at a bar. So if you want to find happy hour at a bar, Boston's probably not the best place to go to. But Boston's great for all the other things. And lastly, another first fact. So the first ever lighthouse was not built in New York. Another misconception. It was actually built in 1716 in Boston. So Boston's also the holder of that. And we could just make a list the top 100 things that Boston did first, but this is definitely one of the more important ones because lighthouses are really popular, and a lot of people associate lighthouses with the beach and stuff, so people would think Florida and California, stuff like that, but Boston, the harbor there too, so then they were actually the first to make lighthouses. Alright guys, so that's the top 10 tourist tips of what you should know before you go to Boston. These 10 things, you can go pretty much start a conversation with anybody there. You just talk about one of these things, and now these 10 things, which you probably never knew before. And if you say you did, you're probably lying. No, I'm just kidding. If you're from Boston, that's great. Just go in the comment section below. Tell me where you're from. If you're from Boston, tell me the cities you guys are from, so I can make more videos like this. And make sure you guys
like the video, share the video, and subscribe.
Yeah, make sure you guys do that. And follow me on Instagram. I will see you guys next time. Bye.